So we talk about ownership. We talk about responsibility as part of being a software engineer, senior software engineer career growth path, right? And come with that is another important aspect. It's called decision making. So let's say you find yourself sitting in a discussions about a new feature or proposal or an architecture design review, and it come to the time when we have to make a decision. But then you find something is tickling in your stomach, something that you're not comfortable with. Maybe it's the design that have some flaws that you are not entirely sure, or maybe the constraint, the trade-off listed there is not enough, or maybe just some small detail in the implementation that doesn't really agreeable for you, and maybe anything. But then, with all of this, you still need to answer one question. Should you push it back? Or should you let it go and move forward with whatever it was proposed right there? Well, it's a simple question. It's a very straightforward question, right? Because it's just whether yes or no, going forward or pushing it back. But again, that's not an easy decision to make when you think about it, because every single yes or no you are thinking is come with a cost. Whether it's the pushing it back, it still have a cost. The cost of maybe you are slowing down the whole team velocity, you are slowing down the productivity, you are slowing down the release cycle, you slowing down the whole pipeline of all the features were planned because are waiting for this specific proposal, or you are creating frictions in the code base because you're pushing it back and we are waiting for that to be implemented, and it can make you look difficult to work with. Moving forward, in the other hand, also come with a cost. It can be that something that you didn't know in advance, or maybe something that happened in the future, but because you let it go, it can make latencies that you didn't see that 6 months earlier. These are consequences also. So the thing here is not about deciding what is wrong, but it actually the decision of what is meaningful or it worthy to move forward or to push it back, and that's what we are going to discuss about today. My name is Maya Shavin, and this is Build with Maya podcast. Let's start with where most of us could have gone wrong in the whole pushing it back game here. So when you start understand more about your project or your system or your code base at the whole, you start to see piece of the components of the architecture that could be improved. That's normal. That's happened, especially when you are really new to the project and start to learn from scratch. It's like the outsider having a better insight than the deep insider. So it can be something small like an implementations that could be improved for optimization, or it could be something that a pattern could be more elegant, more simpler, or the coding could be cleaner. In the first instance, as a software engineer, that one of us will have is that we should prioritize to fix it, right? That's like we start to think about how we improve it, and then the next thing is that we start to push it into the backlog to improve. But the one thing's important here to know that not everything is in the same scale. Not everything master equally. On changing a component design versus changing the whole code base infrastructure are totally way differently, right? And so, how do we decide which one we should push it back? But before we talk about this, I want to tell you something. Every single pushing back, the action that you do, there's something changed under the hood. Something happens there. You may not realize that, but if you push back a lot or all the time or most of the time, you will see that people start to kind of stop listening to you. I mean, it's not so obvious, but it can happen that way. I remember one of the first lesson I learned from my managers as the senior software engineer is that I should choose my battle well, which means I should choose which one to push back and which one not to. Because not everything, like we say, not everything in the same scale, not everything worth it fighting for. If you keep pushing back all the time, you kind of put in a label on your name that the person who always push back things or always very hard to work with, always like trying to cause trouble. And that will negatively reduce your impact to the whole team or even to the wider scope. And it affects negatively on your own, let's say, credibility. You lose trust. They probably don't want to review the code, the PR, because you probably will push back something that is not important at all. And then the more you push back, the more you lose trust, and the more and less weight your voice or your opinion become. And and that means that when something really important happen, and when something actually matters and your opinion is really really straight on the point, it would not get the same treatment like other people because it carry less weight. So even if it's right, it have a lot of sense, people would start immediately treat it like some sort of a lower scale because you have the history of push it back all the time, and you losing your trust, you losing their trust on you. So but this is the first shift that you need to do being a senior software engineer. So you start to ask yourself, um, does it really matter? Is it worth it to fight for this part of thing? Instead of thinking whether this is better or is there a better way to implement this in the PR or in the proposal, you start asking another thing. Is it worth it? Is it worth it to fight for it or not? Okay. So things that you should not pushing it back, such as things that it you can reverse it. Okay, same things that is reversible, things that is low impact, things that is really temporary solutions that absolutely have no risk on regressions on the bigger scope, or something just a reference, let's say code styling, the way you naming the variable, the way you writing the test, or for example, if you are having a fix that is contain, let's say, 3 lines of code, and it's so obvious that it cannot go wrong, like 1 plus 1 is 2, something like that, or check if the number is even or odd, and you need the fix immediately, and you are sure that the test being done, the manual test being done well, then you probably don't need to hang on to the unit test, because not all the code need to be written unit, because it's something that's so obvious that it cannot go wrong from there, right? So in this case, you don't really have to push back the whole PR, or you don't have to push back the whole solution. Can actually let it go and move forward, because it's one and most likely would not create a problem in the future. But then if you think about what you can let go, here come another questions. So what exactly is important enough to push back? What is worth pushing back on? Okay, there's a lot of things we can actually start to think that we may need to push back, like more important, carry more weight. Some of those, actually, like for example, things that is once you do it, it's very hard to revert. Let's say refactor in a big scale. Let's say you want to, you saw that the code base is very over complicated, but it works. Like you remember what they say, if it works, leave it, don't touch it. It has some sense in it. So if you do some refactor, or you think that you can refactor the code, the projects that more efficient, but it take about 6 months or 3 months or 6 months or a lot of effort to do that, and then if something go wrong, it's hard to revert back because a lot of change was done along the way, then this may be not the right things to do at this point. You know that you have to improve the code, but not in the big scale like this, not everything at once. um, or something that is very expensive if you want to make changes to it. So one of the example is to, if you are, if you see that you need to, let's say, build a generic layer, basically require refactor. So when you do a refactor, you technically tell everyone that you are holding this project or this code base on hold because you are doing some underlying changes to the infrastructure, and things may break. There's may have breaking changes here. That's expensive because if someone make changes to it later, you have to think about, if right now, if the infrastructure is not ready for us to use, and they have to work with the old infrastructure, and then once the infrastructure is rolling out, you have to actually change the current implementation in order to work with new infrastructure. That's expensive, and that's not all the time the right way you want to do. So that may work, may be good enough to push back for some time, or not at the last effort like you want it to be, or something that may affect the whole system in long term, like adding a new component into the system that we use by a lot of teams, and this component or this pattern have a flaw into it, maybe because we haven't tested well enough, then this maybe we need to push back because the cost, the impact is too big, right? So there's a lot of moments here that pushback really matter. And it's not because the proposed implementation is wrong, the proposed solution is wrong. Refactor is correct. Adding a generic layer is correct. Making a new design pattern that is simplifying the system for performance optimization in the long term is correct. It's nothing wrong with that. But the problem is that just the cost, the single cost of things that could have go wrong in the middle, it add up all the time, and this can cause a bigger problem over time. Like when you are a junior or mid-level, when you receive, when you propose solutions to a bug or to a feature, you may think about how to make it work best, how to make it look nice, how to implement it the best way as it is today. But then um, a senior will come to it and will look at it and will start to think about what will happen 6 months from now. So whether this still hold true 6 months, what will we live with in 3 months, 6 months, or 1 year from now with this implementation, with this proposal? You can add animations to the component that make it look so much nice, so amazing experience for user with all this butterfly flying somewhere. But in 3 months, in 6 months, you should realize that in order to um, to make the butterfly, it costs a lot of it costs a lot of latency on the user's experience. Or now if you want to add another features to this whole animation in here, it wouldn't be possible because it will break the animation, or it's just very hard to maintain. A lot of things could go wrong 6 months from now. And as a senior developer here, you will have to think, and not the moment, the current moment. You have to think a bit further than that. What will be the impact in the long term? And that's exactly what the mind shift should happen. But again, even if you start thinking about this constraint, that this impact, in order for you to decide whether it should push back or move forward, there's still another aspect that we need to think about. If the feature, the project should be pushing back or not, it depends on the timing. So you can be completely right about something, about the possibility or the implementation of something. You can be right about the performance or like efficiency of the features implementation 6 months from now. I mean, you already look ahead, but still it can be also wrong if the timing is not correct. So when we say time, find the right time or have to be the right moment, it does really have to be the right moment. If you raise something early enough, early enough, then you actually participate in shaping the direction in the positive way. So let's say um, when we have to implement a notification system for our one of our customer, and the notification system will go on our mobile, that will communicate with the desktop version and get on the newest version changes if someone makes the changes on the desktop. Fine. The initial product descriptions or initial thought for the project lead is that we can just make sure that the user is holding the list or scroll down or press the button to refresh or to renew the list of the items to see if there's any changes to pull from the system or not. Right. But then you figure out that this is not enough because it's very naive. You still need to think about whether you want to do push notification or you want to do polling, and what happens if user have conflicts, like someone changed on the desktop but someone on mobile also changing the same thing, and then there you have a two conflicting version right here. And what does your customer actually expect to happen when they meant about notification? All of this have to be raised early, and if you raise early, you stop the naive assumptions implementation, and you shape the direction of the features on time together with project managers, together with all the other stakeholder of the project. But if you raise it late, then you actually become a blocker. Let's say if you wait until they already implement the feature of notification according to what they assume in the first place, then you start saying, what happened if user were expecting that you will push some notification instead of user have to click on something to get the latest update. All of this is correlate and it would just make people become slower, like because now you have to revert everything and then start to validate again, start to implement again, and maybe that is not good enough, so you have to push back to the later release, and that means that the whole feature just got delayed. Or maybe in the worst case, that because it's too late, they just decided, okay, never mind, we just ignore it because anyway it's too late to make changes now, and we have a schedule to meet and we have a commitment to make. And then if something happened afterwards, it still count into as part of the consequence. You need to know when to raise it on time. So if you raise it too late or late, the reaction you will get is that, why are we talking about it right now? Why didn't we think about it earlier? Why didn't we talk about it earlier? Why you wait until now to tell us about that? And that is the hardest part to know, when to push back on something. And especially now that we have another layer that to the whole game in decision making game in here, which is called the AI agent, right? So AI actually make it harder. It's never make it easier and make it faster. So it's hard for you to even find the right timing to chime in because it's too fast. Let's say it take 3 seconds or 3 minutes to generate code for you, to implement a feature for you. So for within 3 minutes, you have to think about when to stop it. And maybe you don't even stop it on time, so it just already generate everything and your token already wasted, and still it's not the right implementation that you wish it to do. And then have you ever get to the point when they give you the implementation, they explains to you very well what they do, and then and then they have a smaller section down there and say, if you want, I can do this refactor this whole code space to include more test cover, or to include more checks and make it beautiful, blah blah blah, something like that. It always give you some better looking options, and it's hard to resist it because it looks so logical, it looks so right. And so now you're in the new situation here. So should I push for this? Should I say yes, go ahead? Or should I say no, 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 wait one moment. That's it. That's enough. Now I need to review it. You probably heard about some PR of fixing some bug, and it's like 23,000 code line changes, because the AI was trying to fix some bug, and along the way it tell the user that I found that this can be reusable pattern, it can be fixed by doing refactor, and the user think that it's really, yeah, maybe worth it, and then approve to move forward, and then you end up with a lot of files and 23,000 lines of code to review and to push. And at this point it's out of control because it's very hard to review 23,000 live code to make sure that nothing break in the middle, right? So that's the thing. That's the reality. And not every single improvement it will take it. The same way, like when you proposed refactor or propose improvement to your team, some of the improvement just doesn't fit into the criteria of the problem solving at this point. Some of the improvement just doesn't fit the system and just add some unnecessary complexity that you may not be aware of it. And the ticket is to fix the single line of code, and it doesn't really matter right now if if the LinkedIn is not correct, if the code is duplicated, we handle it later. So that's something that you at the AI user have to push back. But again, if you push back on every AI suggestions, you may slow yourself down because some of the AI suggestion may be really make sense in long term for the whole team also. So it's like it's another debate here. If you ignore everything, you may miss something important. But if you approve everything, you may miss something also important that you should not approve. So the skill here is not about using AI. It's also the skill of deciding the same skill, deciding what worth pushing for and what worth stopping. I mean, with all the AI, with the real human, it doesn't really matter. You still need to be able to make good decision here, right? But making good decision is a very, very hard skill to master. It's not a technical skill. It's a skill come with the more experience you work, the more how say situation you encounter, then you will know which battle to choose and which feature or which decision to go for. So there's three things that I would say you can start to practice. The first thing is before I decide pushing it back in something, I usually ask myself, does it matter in the long term? Does it matter as the long term solutions? Let's say if I look at the code review and I saw some changes that doesn't look nice to me, but it doesn't really matter in the long term. It doesn't affect anything, so it's not worth it to fight for. I may leave a comment say maybe reconsider to do this way, but I wouldn't stop the PR from being merging just because of that, right? Or another thing you can ask is it the right moment to raise these questions? Or maybe it's already too late, or maybe it's too early, or maybe it's just not relevant at all. And will stopping this or will blocking this will actually change anything, will actually impact the outcome. Well, if the answer to these three questions is totally no, then you let it go. But if still one of the questions that return to me say is unclear, or I ask myself and I answer I'm not sure, not yet, I don't know yet, then I will have to hold on, but not say that I'm pushing it back. I will raise the questions that I have in my mind to answer this question before officially pushing it back. So yeah. So let's put it this way. If I ask the question, is this the right moment to raise it? I say it is unclear. Okay. Then I will start asking question, maybe asking one of the stakeholder more about the timeline, more about the preference from the customer, any question that actually help me to answer the question of is this the right moment to raise it with clear yes or no. Let's say if any of these questions that my answer come back with a yes, then I push back. Okay. But I push back with a clear reason. You don't really push back with the generic answer like, no, this is wrong, we should push back. This is just saying wrong or not wrong is not constructive. It doesn't help anyone in any matter. So instead, trying to start saying like, okay, I have to push back. I think we should push it back because A, B, C. This is the trade-off. This is what's missing here, and we need to understand more. That would change the whole conversation. That will be more constructive and let everyone understand where you come from and not just blankly pushing it back. And maybe someone with a more context will actually help you to answer it and then help you to revert your decision of pushing back or help you to move forward with it. All of this lead to one final thought. Well, pushing back is an art, and it's also part of engineering skill that you have to master how to push back nicely, how to decide pushback, things like that is not written anyway. So it's not about letting it go, it's not about pushing it more or about blocking someone. It's more about how to push better because it's make it give the different how to say the way you deliver decisions is also matters to the audience. So choosing where your energy actually or choosing your where your battle should be actually makes the difference. Let's say I care about coding standard, but I don't really need to pick every small battle on LinkedIn or on the coding naming of variable, because that's not the right battle for me. I should focus on how to structure the code, how to structure the system nicely, properly and optimized, and how to make the implementation is the most efficient way. That will make a difference and give you more credibility. So, what is something that you recently had to raise your voice to push back? Or now, after you listen to this episode, will you still consider pushing back the same way? If you enjoy this episode, follow me at Be With Maya podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcast or on YouTube channel. Thank you for listening.